Just looked like I appeared out of nowhere. Got the Palo Santo. Welcome. Give Instagram some space to welcome some friends. Hello, hello. Today's topic, we're going to talk about stress, anxiety, working with regulating the nervous system to feel more at ease. And I'm going to teach a little breathwork practice that you can hold in your back pocket for any time that you would like to balance your energy, reclaim your sovereignty over your energy field. And anytime I go live, anytime I gather in a circle, I always open up the prayer circle to bless the space and protect us as we journey with energy. So right now, nothing extra for you to do. I'm just going to state this prayer out loud to create a circle of protection and to gather us all together before we dive into today's topic about regulating our nervous system. So I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. We open up our circle to the direction of the east, welcoming the element of wind. This is the energy of new beginnings. So may the pieces of this Instagram live that resonate most with you stay within your intellect, within your conscious awareness to create a new beginning around your relationship to your thoughts, which is the birthplace of anxiety. And may we bring a sense of ease and balance into this part of self and this internal element. Opening up our circle to the direction of the south, welcoming in the element of fire. Padre Inti, this father-son spirit, this entity that ignites our hearts with compassion, please be here today as we gather in community, and may we be compassionate with one another as we experience this energy exchange. May we be connected and feel the courage to step into the life experiences that serve our highest timeline, fueled by the heart. And may this nervous system downregulation support us in following that path of passion. Opening up our circle to the direction of the west, welcoming in the element of water, the archetypal energy of the sisters, the high priestesses. This energy that connects us to our intuitive bodies, our emotional bodies, through the downregulation of our emotional system today. May we actually see through the filters of inner illusions, these core wounds that we may have resting in the emotional body. May we support the nurturing of this and the nourishment of fresh and vibrant and more desirable emotional states. Opening up our circle to the direction of the north, welcoming the element of earth, and asking for a sweet veil of protection within this energy sphere, this conscious community that we are gathering here today. And this element of earth is that which brings us harmony and grounding, and it's a protective spirit. And so as we do our healing work today, we ask that any entities or spirits that are not able to uphold the vibration of love, please step back as we set the tone for the highest good of all. Opening up our circle to above, calling in the cosmic wisdom of the cosmic children, the galactic children, who are waiting on the cusp of incarnating here on this planet. May we welcome all assistants of this galaxy that are supporting our evolution. And may we also connect with that of our spirit guides and our highest selves, this aspect of self that knows all the possible timelines and outcomes and is always guiding us home. And opening up our circle to below, calling in the spirit of our great mother, the spirit of Mother Earth, and the energy of our ancestors and the wisdom of our loved ones who have transcended. May this experience today call all of that wisdom in and a grounding protection underneath our feet. May we feel the earth underneath us. And finally, from within, the guru that rests within, the divine that rests within, our true anchor for radical stability comes from within. Our circle is open. Welcome, friends. As I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to be talking about nervous system regulation. So when we are reflecting on our nervous system, what we have going on in the world is this heightened collective nervous system experience, where many of us are operating from our most primal, most ancient parts of our brains. And our brains have developed incredible systems in order for us to function and stay alive. And so the part of us that's able to think logically and rationally, maybe when you sit down to create a business plan or to create content or to work on a complex project at work, the level of complex thinking that's required comes from a part of the brain that's actually really not so old. And these deeper parts of us, these parts of the brain that are the most ancient, are our survival mechanisms. And so our brain, this big thing that rests up in here, it started off really small, and layer by layer it grew to become this big organism, this big organ within our minds, our head. And at the very front of that, that's our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of us that can play a really complex video game or play a game of chess or have a philosophical conversation or analyze or discern what is the next best step in their business. That's all the most recent parts of our brains that have developed. The rest of it is extremely ancient, and its primary function is to make sure that you survive. And so it's developed an acute awareness to its emotional well-being. What I mean by that is those parts of your brain are so finely tuned to be able to measure your emotional well-being and to take in information from your surroundings to discern if there are things that are a threat to your survival or not. Now, because we live in a world right now where we have instant access to information and news, we have soil and vegetables and crops that have little to no nutritional value. We have toxic pollutants in our hair care products and skincare products. We are living lives where we are so disconnected from nature, and a lot of consumption of various different substances in order to muscle through those systemic structures of life. Our nervous systems are on overdrive. And so an example of this would be a traditional American day, or at least the traditional American day that I witnessed growing up, which is to wake up with an alarm. Jacks up your nervous system. First thing you hear is a stress response when you're waking up. Waking up with an alarm, going to get coffee, which shocks our adrenals. Not saying coffee is bad, not saying alarm clocks are bad, just stating that these are moments that can activate our nervous system, perhaps without our awareness. So we wake up with an alarm, we drink coffee. Some may turn on the news or listen to a radio broadcast within the first hour of waking up, which studies have shown those who do listen to news within an hour of waking up tend to be more neurotic or have more stressful indicators in any personality tests or online tests and things that they may take, because it's activating their nervous system so easy during a delicate window of when we first wake up. Then we might have breakfast. Maybe we skip breakfast. Depends on what we're eating. Could be nourishing, could not be. Maybe we're fasting and food's not on the table. Then we're driving. We're going to work. We're operating heavy machinery. There are tons of other unpredictable people on the road. And then we walk into work. And what does work feel like? Do you enjoy what you're doing? Is there a nervous system activation with people that you work with? So just a standard quote-unquote American day of going through the motions, just that alone can stimulate our nervous system from the very start. So what the intention of this IG Live is for is to teach some tools and also teach how our brains respond to stress and how trauma from our past can become reactivated in the present. And our nervous system can kind of get stuck in a response that is a stress response. So we have different parts of our nervous systems. We have our autonomic nervous system, which is primarily what I'm talking about here. And this is the part of your nervous system that moves you into action. Okay, it's the part of you that, should there be a wild boar running at you in the forest as you're taking a leisurely stroll, it's the part of you that's going to kick your ass into gear so you can get away, or freeze, or fawn, whatever your other reaction is, or fight. So our autonomic nervous system puts us into movement in some way, shape, or form. That's its primary function, and the movement is intended to keep us alive. Now, because this part of us is ancient, it does not communicate through language. So I'm a coach, and I work with people one-on-one around shifting mindset, around reprogramming the subconscious and releasing trauma from the body in order to feel more empowered, more confident, more authentic, more creative, whatever it is that they're calling in. And what I see so much of is people saying to me, Carleena, like, I've done the affirmations, I go to yoga, I meditate, like, why am I still feeling stressed? Why am I still feeling like I can't focus? How come I feel unworthy still? Like, why are these core wounds still coming back? Will I ever get through this? And from an earth-based, indigenous perspective, there is no trauma, no experience that cannot be transmuted or healed. Absolutely none. In your life, regardless of what has happened, you have full sovereignty and control in order to create a shift. Now, one thing that I will say is just thinking differently about it doesn't really do the trick, because your autonomic nervous system and your limbic brain, your most primitive part of your brain, does not speak the English language. It has developed and evolved for thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, before modern day language even came along. And so these are two parts of you, the part of you that wants to do the affirmations and the journaling and, really affirming with mantras that everything's okay and that you're safe. That part cannot reach the other part on the phone. They don't speak the same language, and they don't even have a connecting line in that way. So how we get these two places to talk, the autonomic nervous system, the limbic brain, is feeling based. And so in order for the nervous system to move into a state of down regulation, so up regulation is stress, down regulation is ease, in order for that to happen, that system has to truly feel safe. And I had a really big breakthrough with this in one of my yoga practices as a student, where I knew that I was coming to my yoga practice because it allowed me to feel at ease. It allowed me to feel safe. It allowed me to play and explore, and was really helping my mental health. And maybe a year in, I started taking maybe a bit more courageous classes rather than the ones that I started off with. And people were doing arm balancing, and it seemed like there needed to be a whole lot more technique than what I was capable of doing. And I started to get really insecure. This was at the beginning of Instagram, like yoga culture, about 10 years ago. And I remember just comparing my practice visually to these people. And I started to judge myself on my mat and be really critical. And I realized that if my yoga practice was going to be a safe place for me, for my healing, it had to be that through and through. That even though I was saying that was what my yoga practice was for, it wasn't the environment that I was creating for my nervous system to feel at ease. And so we have to use our conscious minds to create a safe and welcoming space for the part of us that is continuously trying to keep us alive, that continuously is looking for threats. That's what it's actually hardwired for. And so what can happen, especially in states where people have complex trauma in their past, is that our nervous systems start to shift into favoring that sympathetic nervous system state, because previously it learned that it had to be aware and be on guard and be ready. So with complex trauma, these parts of us love us so much. They are protecting us with all that they have to make sure that we survive, that they decide that it's best to keep that system online, That part of us that is hypervigilant, that might be looking for facial expressions, that has a real big wide scope of what's going on to be able to feel safe. Or conversely, that is shutting down or disassociating or feeling really apathetic or even depressed, because those methods worked in the past for that part of the brain. It helped protect you at some point. And so when we're thinking of getting ourselves into a regulated state, they say in neuroscience that it's like a ladder. Okay, that we want to, even though I'm using the term downregulation, we're wanting to move ourselves up the ladder of how consciousness and the sympathetic state works into a state of regulation. And so I'll explain what that means. Okay, if you have some type of experience in your past that conditioned you to be hypervigilant. Let's say perhaps engaging with someone who might be classified in a Western psychology perspective as a narcissist. I love to see yours too, Lauren. Good to see you, honey. So if you grow up as someone who is hypervigilant and you are continuously scanning to make sure that you're safe, and it has protected you at some point in time and served a function for that part of your brain's perception of survival, it's going to say, all without words, okay, this worked, make sure we remember this. Make sure that we always scan facial expressions. Make sure that we always have a little bit of tense in our body to protect us. Make sure that we are always considering things from another person's point of view, because that served the previous situations where it worked. So that's when our nervous system moves into a sympathetic state. It's activated. It's ready for movement if it needs movement, which means muscles tense, stomach might clench. We might have any type of symptoms of like getting ready to move. And that's the sympathetic nervous system coming online. And for many people, again, from a Western psychological perspective, we'll classify that as anxiety. We have this swell of energy that moves through us, and it can be physically uncomfortable, and it could come paired with thoughts or without thoughts. So this sympathetic state, where we want to move to is into regulation, is into a place where we can consciously work with our energy in a way that allows for more ease and more relaxation. And so that's what's called down-regulating our nervous system. It's from moving from being in a stress state into a rest state. And not necessarily rest, but not so activated, just feeling balanced, right? Feeling easeful in the body. Now, what can also happen, again, with complex trauma or any sort of trauma in our histories, is we can go even more below the sympathetic nervous system. I'm trying to be delicate with my words here, but just for the sake of an analogy, just picture a ladder. So we have regulated state up top, we have sympathetic state, which is ready for movement or stress, and then we have what's called the dorsal state. And this is where our body, our subconscious, our sympathetic nervous system has identified that perhaps at some point in our life, we were facing a threat, and due to the circumstances, we weren't able to escape. And so this is the metaphorical jaguar gets the crocodile in the water. And the crocodile knows on a deep level that it can't get away, that its time has passed and it might not be able to move, it's incapacitated. And so the defense mechanism of the crocodile turns on because it loves the crocodile so much, doesn't want it to suffer, that it shuts down the feeling of pain. And it allows the crocodile to not feel the exposure and the intensity of literally being eaten alive by a jaguar. So on a micro and macro level, anatomically, physiologically, to even more psychology-wise, we have such an intelligent system within us to protect us. And this system loves us so much that it knows when it's time to shut off completely in order to preserve the psychology of our minds, and or when to initiate us to be ready for movement, okay? That archetypal fight or flight response. So the dorsal phase is when everything shuts off completely, and this is such a loving mechanism to allow us to not feel the intensity or pain of a situation. And how this can continue to manifest in our lives is continual disassociation. So a continual leaving of the body. The mind continuously moves out of the body because the nervous system gets used to being in that state. And so what happens with healing is for people who tend to hang out in that dorsal space, which is myself. I'm prone to dancing between dorsal and sympathetic, where I am dancing between disassociating and feeling a tremendous amount of energy in my body. And my response is sometimes a freeze response, where I feel so much energy but can't move. The freeze response is the next step up from dorsal. It means we're moving towards sympathetic. We're no longer apathetic or disassociated and not feeling, which is dorsal. We are now feeling and stuck. Okay, that's the freeze response. Still progress, still moving our way into the body. Because remember, we've come here on Earth to live a human experience. If we were meant to be just energy or just thought, we would have chosen to incarnate in a star system where that is the common state of conscious awareness. And in this lifetime, we've chosen an earthly body. So moving from a dorsal state of disassociation, even into a freeze state, means that we're bringing energy back into the body. We're starting to move up that ladder towards regulation, nervous system regulation. So when we feel a nervous system activation, when we feel a stress state, it means that we are moving closer to regulation, especially for those of us that are used to hanging out in disassociation. It is progress. For those of us that are used to hanging out in sympathetic and do not want to hang out there anymore and are tired of maybe that anxious pit in your stomach or worrying about all the things that you have to do and not having enough time, concerned about your relationships, about what you're going to do with your life, like all these things, money, all these things that can activate our nervous systems in such a deep way. We want to allow for that energy that's moving through us, through the sympathetic nervous system, to have somewhere to go. So again, your sympathetic nervous system helps us move. It is what moves us into action when there is a threat. So if our nervous system feels that there's a threat when we get a bill in the mail, when we have a difficult conversation at work, when we have a confrontation with our loved one, when we are struggling with a morality of a parenting issue, when we are wanting to start a new project but maybe are feeling apprehensive, when that activates our sympathetic nervous system, there is no lion to run away from, okay? The bills, we can't just put them on the ground and just run and forget about it. It's still something that is being asked for us to give our attention to. And so nervous system regulation is about learning how to process what's going on in our lives in a way that feels conducive to our healing and without reactivating any previous trauma, and finding healthy ways to move that energy. So coming back to that question that I get a lot when I'm working with people is, I feel like I'm doing all the right things. I'm going to yoga, I am meditating, I'm doing my affirmations. Why does this trauma keep coming back? Why do I still get triggered when this happens? Why can't this go away? Will I ever get over it? And my belief comes from an earth-based perspective that absolutely everything can be transmuted and healed. If it's coming back, it's because there's still medicine there. It's because some part of you is manifesting it to come back to you so that you can learn how to work with it in a different way. Not necessarily a better way, but a different way. And so when life's circumstances deliver us with difficult news or stressful circumstances, or maybe just the routine of our day feels stressful, one of the most important things to do is movement, because your sympathetic nervous system is hardwired for movement. Examples of movement that have been shown by neuroscientists and through studies to downregulate our system, meaning the sympathetic nervous system calms down. It slows its vibration down. It downregulates. In order to do that, some proven ways that I'm going to say are the most ancient and ancestral ways that science didn't really have to prove, and they are proving now. Number one is dance. And dancing in a way where no one's watching. It's ecstatic. It could be weird. It could be sexy. It could be playful. It could be very inner child, like crawling on the ground. It could be headbanging and like getting all your motherfucking anger out. It could be whatever you want it to be. And putting on songs that align with how you want the energy to move, or pressing shuffle and see what comes out. But dance is one of the most ancestral and indigenous and powerful ways for you to move energy. And so if and when you're presented with a stressful situation and there's no amount of thinking your way out of it, how can you move your way through it? And this isn't about muscling through things that you may consciously want to change, okay? Like this isn't about like enduring. This is about learning how to thrive. So in order to allow the sympathetic nervous system to calm down, we have to get our energy out. I say to Johnny all the time, my partner, I say, I gotta get my fucking giblies out. Like, I gotta get my giblies out. And it might be screaming into your hands. It might be smashing a pillow. It might be ecstatically dancing and allowing energy to flow. I have a few friends that don't sit in a divine masculine meditation practice of like sit on your cushion, do it for this many minutes, do it every day. They dance. And their connection to spirit and their ability to move through their traumas and their past and their emotional body pain is astounding simply from dancing. And so the divine masculine way of meditating is amazing. I actually recommend it to everyone I work with, one-on-one, because what meditation does is it slows the thoughts down so that you can become aware of your thoughts. So meditation can create a sense of calmness, a sense of ease. And that calmness of creating space between the thoughts means that you can understand what thoughts are present within you so that you can get to know yourself better, see where any shadows might be, explore the nature of what your heart really wants. Slowing down the mind is incredible. And it's not what moves trauma through the body. Okay, so trauma is unprocessed emotion. It means that there were hormones that got released. Hormones are emotions. So when you went through a particular event, hormones were released in your body, and you were either given the chance to move them, shake, dance, breathe, thrash, have a tantrum, do something to let those hormones move through your bloodstream, or life prevented you from having the luxury to move that energy, the privilege to move that energy, which is your birthright, to move that energy around. And so trauma is unprocessed hormones. They're hormones that have been released that didn't have a place to go, and they kind of freeze somewhere in your body. And this shows up with chronic pain. It also shows up with people who have autoimmune disorders and gut stuff like IBS, because when we're living in a sympathetic nervous system state, when the nervous system is activated and ready for movement and metaphorically running away from the jaguar, what happens is your digestive system shuts down. Fuck digesting your peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you ate earlier, right? Fuck trying to negotiate calmly with the jaguar. None of that matters. Your cognitive brain shuts down, your digestive system shuts down, and your immune system shuts down, because it doesn't matter if you catch a cold. It really doesn't. So in those moments, all that's working is your sympathetic nervous system. How can we move? How can we find a solution? Because I love you so much for your survival. That's what your sympathetic nervous system's doing. And so when we have these chronic issues like autoimmune diseases and gut issues and things like this, chronic stress states, it's important to look at how the nervous system is feeling day to day. And if the nervous system has an outlet to move its nerves around, if it has space to release those hormones that are being released and getting stuck in the tissues of the body. So one of the most important things to do when we're feeling a stress state is to move. And again, movement-based practices that help us move stress in the body are dance. They are using emotional tools. So again, like screaming into a pillow, take off all your jewelry if you're going to do that, thrashing. We really want to have a safe emotional release, which I'll link down a video on a really good YouTube video on how to do this. And another way is breath work. And that's part of why I wanted to host this live today, is to lead you all through a little breathwork experience, because breathwork, what it does is it hacks your autonomic nervous system. It actually is a way to get your autonomic nervous system to release feel-good hormones and neurotransmitters, and to help clean up the residue of those neurotransmitters, hormones that were released during a more stressful time, or have been continuously being released, perhaps if your nervous system has been at a heightened state for a while. So breathwork is a way to hack our limbic brain, the oldest part of our brain, in order to release and secrete positive hormones and hormones that will help clean up the mess. It's important to do these energetic maintenance routines because we're living in a world that is perceived as chaotic to the nervous system. It's unpredictable, right? We don't know what others are going to choose as their life path around us. We cannot control our relationship with people at work. We can't manipulate every single thing in our lives. All we have control over is our energy field. And so when I work with people, and this comes up quite a lot when I'm working with people one-on-one, is, do you know what feeling safe feels like? And for me, this took me a while to figure out. I would start to journal and say, okay, like when my partner holds me, I feel safe. When I have X amount of money in my bank account, I feel safe, etc., etc. And I really had a breakthrough moment of like, if all these things make me feel safe that are external, it could change at a drop of a dime. And so my power lies within creating an internal sense of safety, a reservoir of peace that exists within me, that regardless of what's happening around me, I have an inner sanctuary to come back to. And so in a moment, I'm going to share a breathwork practice with you to feel that in your body, a little bit of somatic movement, and then we'll do some breathwork together. And before we do, I'm just called to share that the Maha Mantra, the great mantra, which you may have heard of, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There's so many translations of this, and one of my favorites that I've heard taught at Kirtan a few years back is that if we take a more spiritual perspective rather than Hindu religious perspective, which I honor and respect so deeply, from a spiritual perspective and from a metaphorical perspective, this mantra, the second part, Hare Rama, Rama represents the reservoir of peace that exists within you. It is unwavering and it will never let you down. And Krishna is the embodiment of the divine, and specifically the divine masculine, which is our inner divine father. So we have an internal divine mother that lives within us and an internal divine father. And so Krishna is the archetype for the divine, and Rama is that reservoir of peace. And so one way to translate this mantra is I surrender myself into the arms of the divine, and I tap into the endless reservoir of peace that exists within me. And it means that we can tap into that at any point in time. You can tap into your internal reservoir of peace at any time. And what's really difficult to do is when you're in a stress state, and stress state, it's a spectrum. So let's say from 0 to 3, we're like agitated, annoyed, frustrated. Maybe 3 to 5, we're feeling activated. We might even feel anger. We might feel fear. It might start to feel like anxiety or really apprehension to hold back or not speak our truth or feel afraid of something. And then from 5 to 10, we're talking full stress state. This is when we are starting to shut down our other bodily systems in order to conserve energy to prep for the metaphorical or literal battle that we're about to have. When we're in that 5 to 10 range of stress, it's not the time to be Hare Krishna, or to be using affirmations, or to be telling ourselves, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. None of that cognitive work is going to do anything for the ancient part of yourself that's in that y'all gotta pick up your feet and let's fucking go mode. So when we're in that 5 to 10, it's not the space to be meditating or be journaling on positive affirmations. It can actually create more stress to do those things because we're trying to calm down that part of the mind that has so much energy. It's really the body, actually, I should say. Your sympathetic nervous system is not like behind your eyes. It's woven into every single nerve of your body. It lives everywhere in your body. So all of that energy of stress is alive and it's wanting to move. And so when we force ourselves to sit still, it holds back the natural flow of energy and can heighten the feeling of stress in the body. So in those states of being between 5 and 10, we want to move the body. You want to have that energy have a channel with which to flow. And one thing that I teach is to set an intention. If you have that moment, if you have a moment where you can take a breath and set an intention and you want to move that energy, where do you want it to flow to? How do you want to feel when you're done moving it? And without attaching to the outcome, just setting an intention of, I am going to shake so that I can feel freedom from this experience, or I am going to dance so that I can feel and process my emotions in a healthy way. Just some moment of checking in as to why you're doing this somatic practice. And so through dance or through movements, we can help give that energy a space to go. Breath work can help us when we are anywhere from 0 to maybe 5 on a stress state, where it can help us move the energy. And I would like to say that breath work is really a nervous system maintenance technique. It's like what helps your nervous system stay well oiled and moving along, and can help you work on shit from the past without needing to get into the narrative and re-traumatize yourself. It spontaneously happens because, again, breath work is going to release feel-good hormones, which are your emotions. Emotions are hormones. Emotions are energy in motion, which is what hormones are. So that can help release feel-good hormones, and it helps clean up any sticky residue from hormones that didn't have a chance to get processed. So what this can mean is when you're doing breath work, you might feel unexplainable emotions come up. This happens a lot in yoga when I'm teaching yoga. Yoga is another way for us to move energy in a somatic way. It helps us release this sticky residue of old emotions in the body. And I'll teach class and people will be like, I know it's so weird, but I cried in Shavasana. Like, I hope you didn't see me. I hope I didn't disturb anybody. And it's actually quite common. From a physiological standpoint, you are allowing these stuck hormones to break apart and move into your bloodstream. And when they move into your bloodstream, it means you feel them again. And so to wrap this up, before we move into our breathwork practice, when we're in a dorsal state, we are disassociating because our body and our brains have felt that there was metaphorically or literally no way out of a situation. And so in order to make that situation feel more bearable, we have learned to disassociate, to leave the body, because the pain of experiencing whatever it was too tender, too intense to hold at that particular time, that we moved away from it. And that can show up like disassociation, apathy, depression. Then when we start doing healing techniques and learning how to drop back into the body, we may move into a freeze response at first, which might feel like a lot of energy moving through your body. And that energy wants to have a place to go, but may not know how to move the energy. Then we move up the neuroscience ladder of regulation into sympathetic, which will be what we like to call a stress state, but it's really your body preparing for movement. And this would be what many people classify as anxiety. And then finally we move into regulation. And regulation is where our nervous system does not feel like it's waiting for the other shoe to drop and like it's tense with energy and tense with vibration. So how do we get from sympathetic into regulation? We're going to practice this right now. And my invitation to you is to kind of play with whatever feels appropriate for you right now. And you can always save this Instagram live. I'm going to do my best to save it and put it on YouTube so you can come back to it later. But being able to return to these practices at any time, and today may be the day. You might be tuning in when you're driving and it's not time, or at work and it's not time. Cool, you can come back to it later. And know that you always have free will to discern, of course, what feels right for you, what's not resonating, and you can lean in, see how it feels, and then lean out if it becomes too much. Tap a toe in again, come out. It can be like this sweet little dance, okay? So we're going to start with a little bit of somatic exercises to help start to channel our energy, because if we just jumped into breath work and the nervous system is already in a state of feeling upregulated, again, we can get that monkey mind kind of ping-ponging off of itself. So let's do a little somatic exercises, which are basically using the body to help move energy around, So go ahead and stand wherever you're at. And we're going to start by just leaning left, lift your right foot up, and just kind of shake your right leg out. And just getting into the shaking from like your ankle, your thigh, up into your glutes, like really just kind of loosening up the whole right leg. No rhyme or reason, you can just move the leg around, you're just shaking. This is an ancient technique. Lots of cultures use shaking. Now lean right, shake your left leg. If you'd like to use a couch or a wall to hold on to, go ahead. Shake the left leg out. Make sure to get into your joints, so letting the foot move around, ankle, thigh, all the way up into the inner thigh, glute, letting that go. And then we're going to bring energy through the whole lower body. So take your hands. I'm going to be bending down. You won't see me. I'm going to use my words. Just tapping your feet, ankles, insides of the feet, down through up through your shins, fronts and backs. Just bringing these nice little love taps up into the knees, nice and gentle, insides, outsides of the knees, behind the knees, up into the thighs, groin. If it feels okay, towards the pelvis. Nice and gentle in the pelvis. And around to the butt, if that feels okay. And just wrapping around the hip line. Beautiful. And then shake your right arm. Let your shoulder go, elbow, hand, fingers, just really softly and sweetly moving the body. So we don't want to force. We want to let the body lead us. So your body has so much intelligence and it knows the pace and the speed. So just kind of letting your body move you. What would that feel like if you let your body move you? Switch to the other side, shaking the left. Now you might start to feel tingling, your heartbeat rise. You might start to feel a lot of energy. And if that feels okay, just know that's normal. We're bringing blood flow into the body, which again helps move our hormones around. Beautiful. Now I'm going to invite you to take your arms over your head. This helps your nervous system and your subconscious feel more joyful, actually. So we're conditioned to only raise our hands for permission to go to the bathroom or to ask a question. And this movement is actually the subconscious symbol for joy. So just taking your arms overhead, be mindful of the shoulders, maybe the arms go out to the sides a little bit. And then move the shoulders. Nice little shimmy. Yes. I record these videos right in front of my front window at my house. And I just always laugh when people will be walking their dog and just lock eyes with me through the window as I'm doing these. Good. Now shake your hips. Feel your butt cheeks move to side to side if that feels okay. Only if it feels okay for you. Maybe you Add a little bit of shimmy in the lower body, move the butt, let the thighs be loose. Beautiful. And then just kind of move around. And last little bit, we're gonna give some love taps to the upper body. So go ahead and tap one arm up and down. Be sure to hit the palms, up through your neck, across the chest, through the breast, nice and gentle, through the belly. And then the other side, go through the right. Nice little love taps. Bringing life force to your body. Beautiful. Across the chest. Under the armpit here is important. The breast, chest, belly. Around to the back. Back of the neck. And let's do some little love taps. Maybe we just move to fingers on the face. Let's do eyebrows. Notice your breath. Let's do under the eyes. Under your nose. Chin. Let's do top of the head. Temples, jaw, and let's land on the heart. Do some tapping across the chest, across the heart. Beautiful. And then relaxing everything down. Soften your knees, soft joints, soft and supple. Take a breath. Feel how your body feels. This practice of what we call 𝘂𝗆𝗪, which is those taps, or EFT, when we're tapping certain places on the face, it's a potent way to move us from that dorsal or disassociative state into a more feeling-based state. So bringing the mind down into the body, embodiment. So just feel your fingertips. Notice your breath. And just notice how it feels in the body now versus before. And to close out, we'll do a little breathwork practice now that we're in the body. And this practice is alternate nostril breathing. And it helps both the left and the right sides of our brain communicate with one another, which naturally downregulates the nervous system. And so this is an amazing breathwork to do at any time during the day. If you want to do this in your nightly routine, let your exhale be maybe half, like double your inhale. And I'll explain what that means, double the length of your inhale. But for today we're going to do balanced breath. So the same breath on the inhale, the same breath on the exhale, so that we can create a sense of inner harmony within the body. But you can kind of play with this breath work, again, for different intentions. All right. So just for a moment, identify which side is your right, because I'm going to be mirrored from you. I'm going to look like I'm coming from the opposite side. So drop down into your body, notice which side is your right, and notice which side is your left. Now you're going to take your right thumb and close off your right nostril. And then your next two fingers, your pointer and your middle, are just going to rest on your forehead. And then you're going to use these other two fingers, your ring and your pinky, and we're going to play with alternating side by side, all right? So you're going to go ahead and close that right nostril here. And you're going to inhale through the left. Close off the left, open up the right, and exhale out the right. Inhale through the same nostril, through the right. Close off the right, exhale out the left. Inhale through the same nostril, the left. Close off the left, exhale out the right. Inhale through the right. Exhale through the left. Inhale left for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Close left. Exhale right. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale right. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Close right. Exhale left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Inhale left. Pause. Close left. Exhale right. Pause. Inhale right. Pause. Exhale left. Let's do 3 more rounds. Inhale left. Pause and exhale right. Pause. Inhale right. Pause. Exhale left. That's 1 round. Pause. Inhale left. Pause. Exhale right. Inhale right. Pause. Exhale left. Pause. This is our last round. Inhale left. See if you can relax your jaw, the belly. Breathe in. Pause and then breathe out the right. Pause. Inhale right. Pause. Exhale left. And then release your arms down. And just feel. Feel whatever is showing up. You might be able to perceive some energy on your forehead from where your fingers just were. Maybe the passages with which breath would flow feel more spacious. Perhaps there's some space between the thoughts. Perhaps tender emotions are present, or the thoughts have changed their direction, or maybe even changed their frequency. Know that whatever you experience is uniquely yours and perfectly fine. That when we work to regulate our nervous system, it is normal to feel things again, to go through a process of kind of opening up some tender boxes and exploring the emotional body. And so we can use some of these tools to have emotional mastery, that your emotions are sacred. They're not something to get rid of or make wrong or bad. It's about learning their messages and how to work with them. Because many of us, as we were children, didn't have the opportunity to safely or fully express our emotions, or this world taught us that it is not safe to do so, or it is not welcomed. And I believe that this next phase of life is to welcome back this rewilding of our primal self, of our emotional self in a healthy way that doesn't cause harm, and that allows us to harness our power and strength and gather our energy back so that you can feel liberation. Liberation comes from feeling and processing. And so I hope today's little mini lesson on the nervous system helps you understand how the nervous system works, and to know that if you're experiencing any type of sympathetic activation, it is okay. Your body is protecting you. And if it's no longer serving your current timeline, these are some ways to work with it rather than against it, and to play with this wildly intelligent and ancient part of self that responds really well to movement like dance, to hand screaming, to taking all your jewelry off and doing some emotional release tools, which you can find on YouTube. Just look up emotional release tools. There are some available on there. And that's also what I do. I teach emotional mastery. I teach how to regulate our nervous systems so that we can feel more liberation. Another great way to do this is through yoga, through movement. Yoga is unique because it helps work with the nervous system in a way that traditional styles of exercise can't always touch. And it's very interesting, yoga, how it works with the nervous system, specifically with the fascial system of the body. And the most ideal way to work through trauma or stuck emotions or helping to downregulate the nervous system is yin yoga. And if you're unfamiliar with yin, it is an amazing style of yoga. It's really accessible. I'm leading a yin yoga teacher training this weekend. I cannot wait. Sidebar, we have one more spot left for anyone wanting to join. One more lucky space. That's in Hammonton, New Jersey. And we're really learning a lot about the intelligence of this subconscious system, of your fascial system, and how to work with it for emotional liberation, and also how to teach classes that are trauma informed and set your students up for a space of self-exploration as they learn how to downregulate their nervous system. And so my hope is that today's session, if you jumped in late, please know that you can re-catch all of the juicy stuff that I shared before. It will be posted on my feed shortly, and I believe I can download it, and I'm planning to put it onto YouTube so that you can catch the beginning piece. A majority of what we talked about was the neuroscience behind our nervous system and how to use this neuroscience to be able to create an easeful nervous system, and also to return to our ancient and indigenous earth-based ways. We all have indigenous blood. We all have a part of us from our ancestral lineage that knows how to create liberation and how to create a sense of deep connection to the self. And I believe for myself, the biggest root of my anxiety was because I was ignoring these signals. And so anxiety, I lived with it for 5 years. I lived with chronic depression for around the same time. And I had to go through that process. It was really necessary for me to learn through those ways. And what I view now is that part of me was yearning for these tools. I just wasn't taught them. No one taught them to me. And so emotional mastery tools really help us to feel freedom, right? Feel freedom, create the life you want to create without these draining threads to the past or our brain's perception of what is happening currently in this present moment in time. So I hope today provided you with some juicy nuggets. And again, you can always go back and catch the replay. And I'm just going to pull a card, give a quick little nugget here from my deck, Sacred Rebels deck. She feels, she knows. This card is all about feeling your emotions and creating a safe space for you to trust your intuition. Your intuition lives in your emotional body. And so often we may feel disconnected from our intuition, disconnected from our part of us that knows. And it's never that you're disconnected, it's just that you're distracted. Your energy is being placed on different things. And so we want to learn how to work with the nervous system to clear away the filters, clear away those wounds that can kind of paint our reality a different color than what it actually is. When we do that healing work through subconscious reprogramming, meditation, somatic movement, dance, breath work, journaling, meditation, whatever brings you back to your center, we can start to strip away those illusions that cut our reality. And then we get into the feeling body. We have to move through it at a pace that feels approachable and accessible. We don't need to rush our healing. That can actually cause quite more damage psychologically. We take it slow. And then we start to clear away what no longer serves. And we get into the intuitive part of us that knows exactly what is your next step. And so I share all this with you today because I see it so often. We're in a need for easy nervous systems. You deserve to feel good in your body. You deserve for any of that chronic pain to clear up. You deserve for yourself to feel liberation and more of whatever emotions fill your cup up. And on those days that it's difficult and the tender emotions come in, we work with compassion. You're normal. You're a human being. We don't always have to pathologize everything. It is energy in motion. That's what emotions are. It just wants to move. And so how can you create a loving container for that energy to move through you? Which means to feel it with whatever capacity you have. And again, not enduring, but learning how to thrive. You deserve that, babe. So I'm going to close out our circle. Thank you for joining. And I'd love to offer gratitude to the direction of the north. Thank you for protecting this space with your loving, earthy energy and creating that sacred boundary of the highest good for all. And we thank any entities that could not uphold that intention of love who's took a step back. Thank you for honoring our intentions of blessing this space for the highest good of all. We close our circle to the direction of the west, offering gratitude to the element of water. Thank you for supporting us with this amazing technology that is coming through these days to understand our emotional bodies better. May we remember that the healing around the emotional body lives in the body, that emotions are in every corner of us, from our fingertips to our toes, and that it's not a cognitive process. And so may we use our bodies as a vessel to liquefy any stuck energy, trauma, emotions, and allow that to flow through the bloodstream to be felt again and processed in a way with compassion, to give it space to move like a river flowing downstream. Closing out our circle to the direction of the south, offering up gratitude to the element of fire. Thank you for transmuting what no longer serves, burning away any energies that wanted to be burned today, like the snake shedding its skin. The fire has the power to transmute and shed and clear. So thank you with the alchemy of this sacred fire, as well as smoke, to help us cleanse away what's ready to be released, opening us and connecting us deeper down into the heart, the seat of the soul. Closing out our circle to the direction of the east, thanking the element of wind. Thank you for being present here today through the method of conscious thought and sound, allowing my words to travel to you and for your highest self and my highest self to commune today. And wind is the carrier of the messages. And so may this message coming from my voice to yours resonate. And should it not, you have full sovereignty and free will to keep what does and release what doesn't. And we trust what is carried on the wind. Closing our circle and thanking our spirit team for opening up this portal of learning for us today, the direction of above, and thanking our inner child for all that it has learned from our unique experiences. And know that these unique experiences are what are strengthening us. And so thanking our inner child and all of the protective measures they may have created at that younger age. And know that we are here for them and are nurturing them through learning how to nurture our nervous systems. And closing out our circle to below, thanking this beautiful mother, the mother of this planet, Pachamama, Madre Tierra. Thank you for feeding us and nourishing us and creating this playground for us to learn and explore and grow. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your loving gravity to anchor us here and feel within our earthly bodies stability. And finally, thanking within, thanking the universal consciousness and breath that flows through all things. It animates me, it animates you, it animates all living beings. And we thank this intelligent life force that flows through all things and no thing at the same time. Hari Om Tat Sat. Our circle is closed. Thank you for joining. Again, if you are just tuning in, this will be posted shortly, as well as on my YouTube channel. You can find my YouTube on the link in my bio. And yin training coming up this weekend. If you want to learn how to regulate your nervous system, we do this in yin training. You don't have to want to be a yin yoga teacher. This training is life-changing. It's transformational because we learn what outdated filters are there and how to transmute them into a more desirable future, which means living more at ease. So if you want information on that, send me a DM. Again, we got one spot left. I also have 2 free events next month in October. I'm leading the High Priestess Path, which is a free masterclass on learning about the divine archetypes of divine femininity. So learning how to work with your menstrual cycle if you are menstruating, or learning how to work with the phases of the moon if you are not menstruating. They are similar archetypes and energies. And I'm also hosting a free 21-day abundance challenge where I will send you a guided meditation and journal prompt or exercise to do each day for 21 days. And we will join together as a community to reprogram our relationship to abundance, up-level your relationship to money, wealth, prosperity, and learn what abundance consciousness means, all in community. Both of those events are entirely free, so you can find information to that as well in my bio. And I teach tomorrow morning, 9:30, Wednesday, Yoga Rebellion in 𝘂𝗆𝗄𝗎. Come on out. We downregulate our nervous systems. We meditate. We breathe. We move. We shake. Sometimes we dance, y'all. It's a good time. Tomorrow's theme is rewilding, and we are tapping into the divine feminine archetype of the wild woman. All of us have her in us. So if you are interested in that, join us. And for those who aren't local to Haddon Township, there is a Zoom option. You can stream in from home.